Let's start our first news with Arman calling out Charles Oliveira over his withdrawal from their UFC 331 matchup. Arman was originally scheduled to face Charles Oliveira in a 5-round co-main event. However, after Oliveira's close friend and teammate Alan Nascimento sadly passed away, the fight was changed and Arman was given Mauricio Ruffi instead. Arman explained that he was already deep into his training camp when the UFC contacted him with the change. He accepted the new opponent because he didn't want to wait around for the Oliveira rematch, especially after being out of action for a long time. But Arman admitted that he was confused by Oliveira's decision. He pointed to recent footage of Oliveira appearing on TikTok Live, dancing, and seemingly enjoying himself just days after the tragedy. Arman also noticed that Diego Lopes had moved up in weight, leading him to believe Oliveira could potentially be interested in fighting Lopes instead. Arman suggested that Oliveira may have used the situation as an excuse to avoid their matchup. He even argued that Oliveira could have continued training, fought Arman, and dedicated the victory to his fallen friend. However, Oliveira is clearly dealing with a deeply personal loss, and grief can affect everyone differently. Taking time away from training, avoiding a weight cut, and refusing to enter a dangerous fight while emotionally overwhelmed can all be understandable reasons to step back. Still, Arman's comments have added another layer of drama to an already complicated UFC 331 situation. Move on to another news. Javier Mendez has opened up about Islam Makhachev's next opponent, making it clear that Islam is ready for whoever the UFC puts in front of him. Mendez explained that Islam is willing to fight anyone available. Whether it's Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, or Shavkat Rakhmonov, the team is prepared to accept the challenge. He emphasized that if Islam truly considers himself the pound-for-pound #1 fighter, there is no reason to fear any opponent. According to Mendez, Islam doesn't care who the UFC selects. Whoever is ranked highest and chosen by the promotion is the fighter they will prepare for. Mendez also praised Carlos Prates, calling him an incredible fighter. However, he pointed out that Prates already faced Ian Machado Gary, and that matchup didn't exactly go the way many expected. The comments come as speculation continues to grow around Islam's next move at welterweight. After moving up from lightweight and capturing the welterweight title, Islam is now surrounded by several dangerous contenders. At the same time, Joe Rogan recently suggested that Islam didn't look quite as dominant at welterweight as he did in the lightweight division. Rogan even questioned whether Islam's team should reconsider the weight class and potentially move back down. But Javier Mendez doesn't appear concerned. His message is simple: Islam is not afraid of anyone. The goal is to fight the best available opponent, prepare properly, and prove once again why Islam belongs at the very top of the sport. For now, the final decision remains with the UFC, but Mendez has made one thing clear: whoever comes next, Islam will be ready. Move on to another news. Ian Gary may have wasted one of the biggest opportunities of his career against Islam Makhachev. Although Gary appeared satisfied with his performance, not everyone viewed the fight the same way. Some believe he may have missed a rare chance to make a statement against the UFC welterweight champion, especially if Islam continues winning and takes complete control of the division. One of the strongest criticisms came from Belal Muhammad, who believes Gary lacked the killer instinct needed in a championship fight. Belal pointed specifically to the 5th round. Gary was behind on the scorecards and needed something dramatic to change the fight. Yet instead of taking major risks and hunting for a finish, he spent much of the final round grappling and controlling positions. According to Belal, that approach showed a mindset problem. Gary wasn't badly damaged or visibly beaten up, meaning there was still an opportunity to push the pace and desperately chase the victory. But instead, he seemed satisfied with avoiding a finish and securing a few takedowns. Belal suggested that Gary may have viewed those moments as small victories rather than focusing on the bigger picture. Against someone like Islam, that's a dangerous mindset. When you're fighting for a UFC title, you simply cannot waste opportunities. Belal also explained that Gary's stock could take a hit after the performance. However, he believes the Irish fighter can learn from it and eventually come back stronger. The biggest lesson may be that championship fights are unforgiving. One moment, can completely change a fighter's career. Bilal pointed to the head kick Islam landed in the second round. If that kick had resulted in a knockout, the entire conversation surrounding Gaethje would have been completely different. That's why every second matters at the highest level. You can't assume another title opportunity will come quickly, especially in a division packed with dangerous contenders. Gaethje still has plenty of time to improve, but his next fight will be crucial. He needs to show more urgency, more aggression, and most importantly, the killer instinct that Bilal believes was missing against Islam. Move on to another news. Carlos Prates has delivered a fiery warning to Michael Morales, making it clear that he's more than willing to fight him if the UFC makes the matchup official. The tension started after Morales apparently suggested that Prates was avoiding the fight, but Prates quickly fired back, insisting that he's never been afraid to face anyone. In a new video message, Prates directly addressed Morales and explained that he has no problem fighting anybody who is willing to step inside the octagon with him. Prates made it clear that, as long as his opponent has 2 arms, 2 legs, and is ready to fight, he's ready to accept the challenge. But then the Brazilian took things a step further. Prates claimed that the UFC has never officially offered him a fight against Morales. According to him, if the promotion actually presents the matchup, he won't hesitate to accept it. And his prediction was brutal. Prates said that if the UFC offers him Morales, he believes he can knock him out in the first round. He even told Morales not to worry because the fight will eventually happen, but right now, Prates has another goal in front of him. He wants to get the belt first. Prates believes he is already in position to fight for the title. And his priority is becoming champion before potentially facing Morales down the line. The message was also a direct response to the idea that Prates might be scared of Morales. Prates completely rejected that claim, saying he has no fear of fighting him and is ready whenever the UFC gives him the opportunity. He finished by making his position extremely clear. Just let him know when the fight is happening, and he'll be ready. With both fighters now exchanging words and Prates openly predicting a first-round knockout, this matchup could become one of the most interesting potential fights in the welterweight division. If the UFC decides to put them together, there will be no shortage of tension leading into the fight. Move on to another news. Khamzat is clearly confused about why he hasn't been given an immediate rematch with Sean Strickland. Following their recent fight, Khamzat took to X and appeared to question the UFC's decision-making. He wrote, "What are we waiting for? I want to fight," making it clear that he's still interested in running things back. The situation is especially interesting because Khamzat believes he has unfinished business with Strickland. After their previous encounter, many fans expected the rivalry to continue, but the UFC appears to have other plans for the division. Now attention has also turned toward Max Holloway, who recently responded to comments surrounding Islam Makhachev and UFC championship belts. During a new live stream, Max pushed back after seeing claims that he doesn't understand how heavy UFC belts are. Max immediately made it clear that he knows exactly what those belts feel like. He joked that whoever was running Islam's Instagram account must have been hit in the head too many times, making it clear that his comments were aimed at the person behind the account, not Islam himself. Max then doubled down, saying he knows how heavy the belts are because he's actually held them himself. But things got even more heated when Max told Islam's social media team not to come for him while hiding behind another person's Instagram account. He emphasized that he wasn't going to sit quietly while someone questioned his accomplishments or his experience as a UFC champion. Max also brought up something else that clearly bothered him. He explained that he had to buy a special UFC championship belt because he wasn't given one of the belts he wanted. That belt was associated with Conor, adding another layer to the situation. Meanwhile, the exchange has created even more attention around Islam, Max, and the UFC championship picture. As for Khamzat, his message remains simple. He wants another fight with Strickland, and he's making sure the UFC knows he is ready to compete. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan believes Islam Makhachev should seriously consider moving back down to lightweight. Rogan explained that Islam did what he needed to do in his recent welterweight fight, winning by a clear and healthy margin. However, he also noticed something we haven't seen from Islam very often: moments where he simply didn't have the same level of control and dominance over a bigger opponent. That raises concerns about what could happen when Islam faces the truly massive welterweights. Rogan specifically mentioned Michael Morales, who is physically enormous and has tremendous finishing power. He also brought up Carlos Prates, describing him as a fighter with nuclear power who can put opponents away with a single shot. Compared to those dangerous finishers, Ian Garry is much more of a strategic and technical striker. He has only recorded 3 stoppages in his 10 UFC victories, meaning he doesn't possess the same raw power as Morales or Prates. And that's what makes Islam's move to 170 pounds so interesting. At lightweight, Islam could dominate bigger moments with his strength, pressure, and control. Rogan pointed to his performances against Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira, where Islam was able to get on top and completely crush his opponents with control. But at welterweight, the physical difference becomes much more significant. Holding down larger, stronger fighters requires far more energy, and that physical tax can accumulate throughout a 5-round fight. Rogan understands why Islam wants to compete at welterweight, but if he were in Islam's corner, he admitted he'd probably say, maybe we should go back down. Meanwhile, on a lighter note, Sean Alibadi released footage of himself working the heavy bag while recreating moments from the Islam and Ian Garry fight, adding another entertaining twist to the UFC 330 aftermath. Move on to another news. Javier Mendez has revealed that Islam Makhachev could have stayed on the feet with Ian Garry for the entire fight if he wanted to. Speaking on Submission Radio, Mendez explained that Islam's strategy was never about proving he could outstrike Garry. Instead, the main objective was to remove Garry's biggest weapon, his stand-up. Mendez admitted that Islam was capable of standing and exchanging with Garry, but he believed that choosing the ground game was simply the smarter path to victory. According to Javier, if Islam had told his corner that he wanted to stand and trade with Garry, they would have allowed him to do it. However, Mendez would have advised him that it wasn't the best tactical decision. That shows just how much confidence Islam's team has in his striking ability, even against a technical opponent like Garry. Mendez also discussed the impressive kick Islam landed during the fight. He explained that the kick wasn't specifically planned for the matchup. Unlike a previous fight where Islam's coaching team deliberately designed a body-to-head attack, this kick was something Islam regularly practices in training. In other words, Islam didn't need a complicated game plan to produce that moment. It came naturally from his well-rounded skill set. Mendez described Islam as an extremely complete fighter who can do everything, whether that means wrestling, controlling opponents on the ground, or striking on the feet. The biggest takeaway is that Islam's decision to wrestle wasn't necessarily because he couldn't compete with Garry standing. Instead, his team believed the ground game gave them the most reliable path to victory. And with Islam now established at welterweight, Javier Mendez's comments only add to the growing belief that the champion still has plenty of tools he hasn't fully shown yet.